likes and wants me.
Yeah, that's good. We
Yes, it's good.
are live. When you're young, it's good, right?
It is good. You don't even realize what you have when you're young. That's
No,
just
no.
it's a cliche because it's true every time. Cease. Youth is wasted on the young,
Yeah.
and when we finally realize what we could and should do with youth, we don't have it.
I remember when I worked at Target when I was in college, and then like I ended up getting my college girlfriend, and I was talking to one of my coworkers, and she was like, "You realize like everyone here liked you?" And I was like, "Really?"
Yeah,
But you're just too dumb. You're too dumb to know that. Like, huh?
yeah, yeah. But you don't want to be the opposite, where you think everyone like is creepy.
Oh, those guys are the worst.
It's
Like when you go to
it
a
is
restaurant.
it's 21st
Yeah, we
century. It is
got
the
a buddy
era
of
of
mine that I haven't talked to in years, but you'd go to a restaurant or something, and the waitress would be like, "Thanks, honey," and he'd be like, "She
she
likes me."
wants me. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, she's nice
Yep,
to
I'm the
everybody because
man.
she works here and it's part of her job.
Right. Don't be a creep.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe our lesson for this show. Don't be a
yeah,
creep.
yeah.
Don't be a creep,
Hide,
guys.
hide the reefer.
Mm.
Here comes the creepers.
And
That's
of
the song I
course,
just heard. Yeah,
as I'm dressed
creep.
up like, well,
Maybe a
several
creep.
things.
And there's also the
Several
Stevie
things.
Wonder hit "Creepin'."
Okay. That's why I creep. There's a little TLC for you. Left Eye Lopez. I don't know what we're doing. Oh, I know what we're doing. It's week 7 preview, and it's Thursday Night Football, Giants in Philadelphia. And this one could have plenty of fantasy points, Bloom, for both sides. So the Giants side seems a little bit more interesting. Obviously, fantasy GMs with Darius Slayton are like, just keep doing it. Do a little more. Fantasy GMs with Sterling Shepard say he's on his way back, but is he going to play on a short week? That's what we don't yet know. You're looking at Devonta Freeman and saying, what can you do now in this contest against the Eagles? It's on the road, if that even matters anymore, Bloom, with crowd or no crowd or whatever is going on at Lincoln Financial Field. But it's the Giants side, and it is a little more interesting. I think the Eagles are more interesting, but this matchup makes you go, I might actually consider my Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Although the Giants' offense still has to overcome Jason Garrett. And look, this is an interesting game. See, as much as we have landed our shots, through our cream pie in the face of the NFC East because it's so bad this year, it actually sets up an excellent scenario to see who the best coach is, who can motivate his guys. Because this division is right there for any of these 4 teams. And they're all playing each other this weekend. It's a big divisional game weekend in the NFL. So I'm excited. And, we've got Joe Judge, we've got Ron Rivera, we've got, of course, Doug Peterson, the old hand, and then Mike McCarthy. Anyway, so, think of it like a coaching derby, It's a good test for Joe Judge. I mean, look, whoever wins these divisional games this weekend in the NFC East should feel like they can win the division and host a playoff game. And then who knows from there? Ask the Philadelphia Eagles. Daniel Jones, still not a great play. Philadelphia can get some pressure. Again, overcoming the Jason Garrett offensive coordinating. You still like Darius Slayton. We'll see if Sterling Shepard is back. That might make you like Daniel Jones a little better. Maybe pick up Shepard for the end of your roster, not necessarily play him. Golden Shepard is in that decline phase. And then there's Evan Ingram. The matchup looks good on paper, but Evan Ingram hasn't come through for us yet. So only if you're really desperate at tight end, although maybe you hold on to him to see if this gets him turned around on a national stage. Devonta Freeman, I'm not even sure if I'm going to play him in this matchup. Philadelphia, I don't think the weakness of their defense is the run defense. Malik Jackson is going to be out for this one. I still think that Wayne Gallman has a little more juice than Devonta Freeman. Low bar at this point, but we'll watch that usage. You might even look at the Philadelphia defense in this one because they have got pressure on the quarterback, and it is Daniel Jones who doesn't know better. Daniel Jones, by the way, I saw the stat. He hit 20.6 or 20.7 miles an hour, 7th fastest time of anybody who had the ball in their hands in week 6. So maybe if this doesn't work out, convert him to tight end.
See whatever works. Whatever works. By the way, our man Matthew, because I was doing a little TLC there, Bloom.
Yeah, Andre Rison.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Left Eye, by the way.
Yeah.
And well, I probably shouldn't say this, but there were some Falcons guys that were partying with Salt and Pepper,
Oh,
and that made Left Eye mad, so she burned down Andre's house.
right. That's the story. It's because it wasn't because he was up on stage with them.
Yep.
That's Don't watch who you get up on stage with.
One of my
fellas.
dear friends was up on stage with them.
Yeah.
Because he played for the Falcons.
Yeah. Just because they offer you to come up on stage doesn't mean you have to do it.
K1 says Jalen Hurts cracked the seal. A little Taysom Hill action. We're waiting to see if Dallas Goedert's back. This is much more interesting if Goddard's back. We all can admit that and know what he can do. And he's a tight end 1. He's a top 5 tight end. Like, is he going to play? We don't know yet. So we're now looking at Carson Wentz, maybe with Dallas Goedert, maybe without Dallas Goedert, definitely with Jalen Hurts, and then with Boston Scott at the running back position. We can go through the wide receivers, right? See if Deshaun Jackson's going to play, Alshon Jeffrey, all these sorts of things. But to me, it's interesting if Goddard plays. It's very interesting with Scott, no matter who's playing, because we know he's the guy. We know he had 130 yards all-purpose last year, 3 touchdowns against the Giants in Week 17. But we also know that he was splitting time with Corey Clement. Like, he didn't look the same earlier this year, and being that true handcuff behind Miles Sanders. But now, no Miles Sanders. What do we get from Boston Scott and the like?
Right. It's such a changing cast of characters. Carson Wentz goes into the huddle. Like, who are you guys? I know you. Lane Johnson might be back this week. Deshaun Jackson will be back this week. But no, of course, Miles Sanders. No Zach Ertz. I don't think Dallas Goedert's going to be back. Jalen Reagor's not going to be back yet. So the revolving door continues. But what you like about Wentz is showing that fight in that game against the Ravens, and it makes him a consideration as a quarterback this week. And again, if Deshaun Jackson's back, if Lane Johnson plays in this one, that upgrades him. I think James Bradbury, who's been excellent, should be on Travis Fulgham. It just makes sense for your longer corner, your more physical corner to be on that X receiver. So it really could be a game where Deshaun Jackson gets right back into the lineup and has some big plays. That being said, I'm not saying bench Fulgham. You've got a pretty good team if you can bench Fulgham this week. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Boston Scott. So see, here's the riddle for this one, because showdown slates, right? Boston Scott or Devontae Freeman. I mean, that just shows you where Boston Scott's value is, because you're not really sure that Scott is an obvious better play than Freeman. Like you said, Corey Clement. Maybe we'll see some Adrian Jones. And Richard Rodgers. If you're really desperate for a tight end, I have to imagine that Rodgers is competent. And no Ertz, likely no Goddard. It's a good matchup for tight ends here. Maybe also, again, the Giants defense. They've got defensive touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Carson Wentz, because he's so bold, because he's got so much fight, can give up those big plays. Kyler Fackrell getting in on some big plays for the Giants defense. So you like both defenses here. Sees bad football, NFC East, can create turnovers, sacks, entertainment, especially if you have one of these defenses in.
Thursday Night Football could be fun.
Yeah.
Morning to our guy, Mookie, right? Got the chat room fired up. We're ready to go. And, of course, remember, there's 4 teams on bye and quite significant players on bye. So we get to Detroit and Atlanta, and you are considering DeAndre Swift for sure. Keep that up, kid. Matthew Stafford, where's his level in this matchup? You're going, wait a second, Atlanta, they don't play defense. So let's start the lines, except for Marvin Jones Jr. Let's start Kenny Golladay. Let's throw in TJ Hawkinson as a low-end tight end 1. Certainly DeAndre Swift's got people excited, and it's Atlanta. Could get a lot of Lions fans excited this week.
See, this is the meeting of the Blue Elite to the Bears support group. Where would our season be if we just could beat the Bears? Go Bears. Detroit, Atlanta, doesn't that just scream offense to you? Doesn't that just scream high-scoring game?
Yeah.
So you like Stafford. I know he didn't come through for you last week, but he did have an offense that had 4 offensive touchdowns. He only accounted for 1 of them. I think it's good. Go back to Swift. He had that big play. He had the touchdowns last week. It's Atlanta. You really want to err on the side of starting everyone against Atlanta, like you said, except Marvin Jones. I think this could be your massive Kenny Golladay game. Remember, he drew pass interference in the end zone in addition to having 100 yards when Detroit had it easy last week against Jacksonville. TJ Hawkinson, On paper, this looks like a tremendous matchup. I don't remember how many touchdowns Atlanta's given up to tight ends, 6, 7, something like that. Because we moved on from Marvin Jones, it probably will be the 3 or 4 touchdown game. In your
Right.
GPP, Millie Maker kind of scenario where you want that hit that's like 0.5% owned, maybe it is Marvin Jones. And Detroit, they saved Matt Patricia's job last week, Cease. They're playing a team that doesn't have to save their coach's job anymore, which seems to have lifted a burden from the Falcons.
Lifting burdens is what the Falcons have done, and rising with Julio Jones healthy. Sure. Calvin Ridley. Yeah. What's that mean for Russell Gage? Okay. Okay. And then we get to Todd Gurley. Expectations there. This one's Detroit. It's on the road. And I feel good about those receivers. Maybe not as good about the running situation with Matt Ryan slinging it. And obviously Ryan is a consideration as a top 5 fantasy quarterback in this matchup.
Yeah, this might be real straightforward against Detroit. Ryan looks like a good play with Julio Jones back. Julio Jones, obviously a good play. Calvin Ridley, obviously a good play. And Todd Gurley, even though he didn't do much in the blowout win over Minnesota last week, got the 20 carries. So he's clear, still the lead back. And in an offense that can set up for a lot of scoring opportunities with the terrible defense and also the likely game script here. So I think you like Todd Gurley. He's got some staying power this year, surprisingly, even though the team doesn't. Hayden Hurst is kind of, you feeling lucky? You roll the dice. Last week, it was only a garbage time touchdown that came through. But hey, garbage time touchdown, that's good eating at tight end if you can even get that, the dumpster diving. So you may leave him in if you don't have anything obviously better, but just know that it's risky. The other thing we're watching here, Cease, trade deadline, a couple of weeks. But Atlanta, this team, and it's real interesting looking at the 2 teams that have fired their coaches so far, Houston and Atlanta, because on one hand, it makes sense for these teams. We'll talk about the Texans to have fire sales. It makes sense. It seems like the NFL has finally caught up with MLB, NBA. Yeah, you really just tear it completely down. Like whoever the new regime is led by can start with a true clean slate. Like you're not attached to any players, you're not attached to any contracts really. And so on one hand, it makes a lot of sense, even though these teams don't have anybody guiding the ship right now. That's the thing. Thomas Dimitrov's out. Bill O'Brien's out. But you still want to make moves in the best interest. I guess a mass draft pick, Cease, even if they're late draft picks. So I'll be interested to see how Atlanta approaches this. The team's waking up, but it makes a lot of sense for them to be sellers to just about anybody that a team would be interested in.
So we'll see what happens there with the trade deadline looming. And we'll see what happens in a big AFC North battle. It is Cleveland. It is Cincinnati. And you're looking at this going, okay, Cleveland, lick your wounds. Baker Mayfield. I got a picture. I'll text it to you, Bloom, of Ben with like Odell and Baker and Myles Garrett, all like as his children. So funny. I'll text it to you. But this, my son, Baker the Baby Maker. It doesn't sound the same. Okay, how the ribs? How you feeling? You got beat up, but it's the Bengals. You should be able to sling it, right? So Landry back, ODB back, Kareem Hunt back, and Baker maybe even back in consideration for your lineups this week.
Deja vu, Cease, right? We've actually already seen this game this year. We're getting to the point now where we're seeing some rematches. And going into that first game, week 2, Cincinnati barely lost a game that they should have won against a team that most would say is a superior team, giving you some hope. And Cleveland just got thumped by a division rival. And here we are again. Same scenario. You have to like Kareem Hunt in this game to bounce back and have a massive game. Even when you're looking at your DFS lineups, he might be your cornerstone running back after how we saw Cincinnati get pushed around. And also you're seeing, I think it's Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, longtime Bengals, taking the Bengals out of their Instagram profile. I want to say something like that. Isn't it great, Cease, in this 21st century, we're monitoring social media. Who's he following? Who's he unfollowing?
Right. Isn't it great / also incredibly sad? Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's our life. It's a sad and beautiful world, Down by Law. It's a good film. See it. Dearness Johnson, even a What the Heck flex, because of how this Cleveland running game clicked against Cincinnati last time. Odell Beckham, remember, it was a holding penalty, I think, that wasn't detected, or he would have had 2 touchdowns in that game. Austin Hooper has some momentum, more than Jarvis Landry. Landry's a fine emergency play, but he's not doing more than that. And also, watching Baker Mayfield, he's supposedly healthy I mean, in so much as a player is healthy in week 7, he said he's even feeling better than he did going into the Steelers game, which is probably because he knows he doesn't have to face the Steelers. you know, you just want to see him. I mean, this has been. It's funny, Cease, because before the season, if you said this is a referendum year for Baker Mayfield, this is a year for Mayfield to show this new regime he's their quarterback or he's not. People say that's too hasty. Come on, that's just give him at least a year in the new system. And now people, I think, are really embracing that and seeing Baker Mayfield's obvious limitations outside of structure when he has to just be a pocket quarterback. So I think that Cleveland's taking notes. Also, Cleveland taking notes on maybe trading David Njoku. And again, as an aside, Cease, I think as we watch inactives this week, watch for those players that have been playing some sort of role and are healthy scratches, because that can be that first sign that David Njoku is being traded to the Patriots.
Maybe. Watch and learn. Is AJ Green back in our good graces? I mean, we step through everything going on and mix a little banged up, whatever. And of course, here we come with Joe Burrow. But is AJ Green, and obviously Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, you know what to think and what to expect with these guys. But it's AJ Green that's confusing me, Bloom. Is he back? Are we back on board with the veteran?
Another player who could be traded at the trade deadline. Cincinnati should definitely be sellers. Going back to this last matchup, Cleveland's defense, Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, they knocked Joe Burrow around. Burrow still had a lot of volume. So Burrow is a high floor, low ceiling play here if you're looking for someone to replace a starting quarterback. Just stick with Joe Mixon. He got a little dinged last week. Watch the practice participation. Make sure it's not something that flares up in the week leading up to the game. But he had 2 almost touchdowns in addition to the touchdown he did have last week. They're starting to use him like a workhorse. And of course, you're leaving in T. Higgins, that clear downfield threat. AJ Green cuts a little more into Tyler Boyd. I'd still rather start Boyd than Green, even though Green outscored Boyd last week. But we're going to watch this because even with that volume, and PPR leagues makes it easier to justify Boyd and Green as starts, but it might be a little more difficult. Remember, this was the matchup where AJ Green had like 13 targets and caught 3 of them and looked bad. And people said, buy low because of the targets. Little delayed gratification here. Last week, maybe the player I'm watching the most here, Cease, other than AJ Green, would be John Ross. And this is one like David Njoku where the player's representative going to the media, putting it out there. And I guess we're just going to link every possible trade to the Patriots.
Yes. Well, they need wide receiver help. So, and John Ross, it's weird because he's been a healthy scratch. And then last week he was not a healthy scratch, but you wouldn't have noticed, except he played 1 snap. So
there you go. There's your snap.
Yeah, you're not a healthy scratch. Here's your snap. Here's your best game of the week. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, battle of the undefeated and Pittsburgh side. Chat room's even saying Juju's out of my trust circle.
Yeah.
But everyone's trusting Chase Claypool to do more. You had James Washington last week. You were, as a What the Heck Flex, you were excited. Now Deontay Johnson's back, most likely. So what's that do for James Washington? Or is this just kind of a muck and mire of those 3 wide receivers? Oh, yeah, and Chase Claypool, who's going to continue to get it done. James Conner, speaking of getting it done, against a well-coached, Titans team that's got some questions on offense we're going to get to with guys getting hurt, Taylor Lewan. If Tyson Bryler's in at your left tackle against the Steelers, you're going to eat.
Yeah.
That's for the Titans side. But let's talk about the Steelers side first. And just where's your trust at with Juju?
Yeah. First of all, I don't have the stat in front of me. I should do better research for our show, Cease. Week 7 Battle of the Unbeatens is not common. Not common at all. So that's exciting. And, this is exciting to see where these teams match up against each other, how they look, potentially a preview. But the most exciting thing here is Steelers honk. Well, I mean, obviously there's Chase Claypool. That's just something you have to pinch yourself. And how can we have Chase Claypool in addition to what we already have? Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, let me put it this way. It would come down to the or. Who's on the other side of the or? Like, I would start Juju over Travis Fulgham that we talked about earlier. I would start Juju over AJ Green. I might even start him over Tyler Boyd. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with Juju. I don't think he's nursing an injury. I don't think there's anything going on with him. I just think that those downfield targets are more attractive. And that's the bottom line here. The exciting part is Ben Roethlisberger, assuming Deontay Johnson gets back out there with these 4 wide receivers against this defense. By the way, Tennessee's defense is in the top 5, 8 defenses of just start players against them. If you're in doubt, there's going to be a high-scoring matchup probably here. The pecking order, I would say, is Claypool. He's obviously in. I still think Deontay Johnson is the second best start here, and then Juju. And then even though James Washington is warm coming into this one, I think he probably suffers the most in terms of snaps with Deontay Johnson back. Of course, James Conner's rolling. The other thing to watch here is Eric Ebron, who hasn't really gotten momentum going, but this is a good matchup on paper. Look what Darren Fells did last week. So you could imagine, especially game plan wise with Tennessee's zone defense, to say, we're going to take away the deep ball, we're going to take away big plays, maybe more Ebron, maybe more Conner. Try to keep the game close because in this case, Cease, I think like you said, the Steelers match up well against the weakness on the Tennessee offensive line. And if there's a team that can match Derrick Henry with physical intensity,
Right.
it is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and if there's a team that can stand up to that it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Derrick Henry, it's easy. Football 101. They're going to try to bludgeon him. Now, how's that work? You go bludgeon him and then go to play action passing. If Ryan Tannehill has time, he may not have much time.
Yeah.
Taylor Lewan out for the year, and here comes Ty Sambrailo, who's not good. And you can blame Clancy Barone for ruining him, basically. Okay, what's that do for Ryan Tannehill? Corey Davis back from the COVID list. What's that do for Ryan Tannehill? And of course, tight end of note. Should this be like Tecmo Bowl Bloom, like just Titans tight end, like just whoever it is?
Right.
Is that going to be the emergency dump off receiver guy? As Tannehill will be under a lot of pressure.
This does seem like Anthony Ferguson. I don't think we're going to see Johnny Smith. Watch to make sure, and Adam Humphries. I mean, those seem like the players that you want to move the ball, get you in reasonable down and distances. Because the Steelers, we saw this with Saquon Barkley in Week 1. Remember, the Steelers, whenever they know the run is coming, are going to stop the run. They're going to jump the snap. You're going to see Bud Dupree, who's become an excellent run defender. You're going to see Vince Williams coming downhill. And 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9s, I know we joke about that. You got the Steelers defense right where you want them, but not when Ty Sambrailo is your left tackle or right tackle, however they're going to configure this. So, that's the thing is, as good as Ryan Tannehill has played, the odds are long for him when it's 3rd and long. So I wonder if Tennessee, and this is a great test piece for Arthur Smith. I mean, it's, we think of like football's war. And you have what you have going into battle, and how do you deploy it to give yourself the best chance to win? Because Steelers losing Devin Bush, problems, but I think the biggest problem for the Steelers without Devin Bush is covering running backs out of the backfield, and that's not something that Tennessee's in their offense. On the other hand, Taylor Lewan being out really creates a leaky spot on their offensive line, and the Steelers create leaky spots on offensive lines with regularity. We are going to see Corey Davis back. Probably not going to put Corey Davis in, but you will leave A.J. Brown in. And if there is that game, A.J. Brown would be the guy that would, after the catch, just do things. Steelers sometimes, overpursue a little bit, can be a little sloppy tackling in the back end. So let's watch that. But the pass rush is going to be coming. This is going to be a tremendous game. And I think you're going to see two teams, that obviously have a lot of belief in themselves. They understand what they're doing right now, and at least one will come out undefeated.
That's going to be what we are watching for. Carolina and New Orleans is another game that, will be pretty interesting and exciting. Teddy's return to the Crescent City. Here comes Teddy Bridgewater leading the way, and how's Carolina lick their wounds, going forward? Okay, Mike Davis coming back, Robbie Anderson in your lineups, DJ Moore as well. So Carolina's got some interesting names, but, we saw the flaws last week. What about this week traveling to New Orleans?
Yeah, Carolina, going to last week with a shared lead. Tampa now officially the leader, but New Orleans still there, has that win against Tampa in hand. And they had a chance against Chicago, even down to the end of the game. Chicago, as they've been doing, winning ugly all year. Now, you can't win ugly in New Orleans. You have to play well. Teddy has to play well. This is a test. Teddy going back to New Orleans against a rested defense. What can he do? Because you do have, of course, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. DJ Moore could have had a massive game last week, but you have the matchup against the tough Saints corners. So, this could be a game, Cease, I think, where we really see Carolina's season go full circle back to, yeah, they're a pretender, not a contender. That being said, if they can go neck and neck with the Saints in the Superdome, which I think they're going to have like 3,000 fans or something like that. They're going to start phasing it. Did you see that whole drama Cease where the Saints said, we're going to go to Baton Rouge so we can just play outside? And the mayor said, that sounds like a great idea. And they said, oh, well, actually, no, we're not actually going to do that. We'll take the phased in fans, maybe getting up to 6,000 soon. Christian McCaffrey could be back next week. We'll see. I don't think he's a sure thing to be back next week. Not going to be back this week. You can stick with Mike Davis, although, like Teddy Bridgewater, he's slowing down. We're going to watch if Curtis Samuel plays, just maybe even to see if he's rosterable, because the last we heard, Teddy Bridgewater said we got to get the ball to him more, but because of his knee, he wasn't able to play last week. Remember, the New Orleans defense has been giving up a lot of points. So if Carolina's offense is thwarted pretty easily in this game, we're going to give a thumbs up to New Orleans, but we're also going to say that, again, maybe the Carolina offense hasn't come along as far as quickly as we thought after those first few games.
And the New Orleans offense not yet clicking on all cylinders, but that can change against Carolina. So we even got Jeremy in the chat room saying Latavius Murray, sneaky start because you're starting AK, you're starting MT, considering Emmanuel Sanders and looking at the situation with Drew Brees and going to distribute the ball. And then you go to Latavius Murray. This could be a nice day for that Saints offense. Bloom, let's break it down.
Yeah, we've had some massive days for running backs against Carolina. Now, so running games like Chicago and Arizona, Kenny and Drake, they didn't do much. But good running games have. I think Latavius Murray makes this a good running game. And Latavius Murray's been getting 12 to 15 touches a game anyway. So absolutely, Latavius Murray is a what-the-heck flex. Alvin Kamara rested. Well-timed bye week for him as he was helping carry the load in this offense. And now Michael Thomas should be back. Sean Payton being a little cheeky, saying, well, his discipline's over. We'll see about his ankle. I think his ankle's probably okay by now. In some ways, it's almost ideal that the Saints got all this extra time for Thomas's ankle. And then you have Emmanuel Sanders, and the last time we saw Emmanuel Sanders, he was really riffing, was like 12 for 120, something like that, against the Chargers with Drew Brees. And you have a healthier Jared Cook, too. So now he's coming out of the bye. It's kind of like week one for this offense. For the first time, we did see them against Tampa, although they had some things go their way, a pick six, a semi-onside kick that worked out for them, some different things that really made that game easier than just putting it on the offensive shoulders. What we could see, even though Drew Brees, and this is a test for Carolina, this is a test for Carolina defense, where Drew Brees isn't pushing the ball downfield, so it should be easier, but Drew Brees is still, as he gets warmed up, an efficient passer. So can Carolina's defense even slow them down? I won't be surprised if this is a blowout, Cease, even though it's a divisional game. I won't be surprised if New Orleans offense looks the best they have all year because they finally have all hands on deck and healthy and everything is humming. And so anything short of that result, I think, is a moral victory for Carolina and maybe a return to the idea of that's the kind of victories that they're going to get this year.
Well, this is when the Saints offense is going to look like the Saints offense that you would normally expect and anticipate. So what does Buffalo's offense look like in a take it out on Adam Gase type of week, as Buffalo's had some rough sailing when they face bad teams? They pound them. Okay, Buffalo, we'll get back to it. And what's that mean for Devin Singletary and Zach Moss as that split continues? Oh, spooky. So let's talk about Stephon Diggs and the good sides. And is Josh Allen ever going to riff with a tight end? Mainly Dawson Knox. And against the Jets, hell, he could riff quite a bit.
Yeah, this is a game that the Bills should handle easily if we're not going to be worried about them. Now, the funny thing is, the Jets in week one were competitive with them into the third quarter. It was actually one of the Jets' better games this year. So some things to think about here is the Bills are slowing down. Really what we want is a heat check on Josh Allen, right, Cease? I mean, it's the Jets. So calm down, get back in your game, play within yourself. The backfield, I don't know if I want to start either of them. There's probably a rushing touchdown there or two. Maybe Josh Allen gets them, though. Obviously, you're going Stephon Diggs. He's emerged as that clear number one. Why are you playing John Brown when he's not 100%? Why? You're not helping things, Sean McDermott. And I guess he's going to play again this week. And then that makes Gabriel Davis not as good of a play. Cole Beasley, high floor play here against the Jets. You would think that that's a way they can move the ball. Dawson Knox has a calf issue, so I don't know if we're going to see him. No reason to rush anyone back against the Jets. Again, I would actually be relieved to hear that Sean's just going to sit this one out, as the Bills should turn this one into a layup, but this also could be your classic trap game.
Trap game, and it's a trap. Look out, Admiral Akbar. The Jets side, do we have to talk about him? I mean, Jameson, sure. And Rashad Perriman, okay. Maybe Denzel Mims pretty soon. It's interesting. Frank's going to do his thing, and LaMichael Pirine, they're going to talk about. He won't do much. Like, I don't know. Just don't get terribly excited about the Jets side.
I don't know if we're going to see Sam Darnold. I mean, it kind of makes sense, honestly, to just let Darnold sit for a little while. Perryman was looking pretty good, though. Perryman could be surprising, especially whenever Darnold is back. We've seen Darnold extend plays, create plays. Do we get a LaMichael Pirine look? The other thing I'm watching here, Cease, it is the Jets' offense, so we can't consider them a measuring stick or anything. But is the Buffalo defense getting worn down? It just looked like they were weary in the rain, having to match dance moves with Clyde Edwards-Helaire on Monday. They had just played on Tuesday. They had to match Derrick Henry. So maybe they're a little weary. Maybe they're dragging themselves into this one. Be watching that. Trade deadline stuff here, by the way. The Jets should be sellers. Hey, yeah. There's a little bit of buzz. Maybe that's why you keep Sam Darnold off the field. That maybe Sam Darnold is someone who could have traded. Quinnen Williams. Gotta love that, Cease. Takes one third overall a couple of years later. Who wants him? Who'll give us a second round pick for him?
Right.
Yeah, these are your Jets.
These are your Jets, ladies and gentlemen. Why the hell would Adam Gase survive this and not Sam Darnold?
2020, man.
Jets, man. A final game we're going to talk about, Dallas and Washington, in part one of the Week 7 recap here on the Audible Dallas side. It's Washington, so that should mean something for this offense, but what does it mean with Andy Dalton back there slinging the rock for this team? Because we've got some questions, Bloom. What are the answers for Cowboys fantasy GMs?
Yeah, that's the big one, right? And hey, the trade deadline isn't like another week and a half after this week's game, so get another Andy Dalton game under your belt. If it just looks like Andy Dalton can't handle things, because now they lost, now we're down to 5th and 6th string, or maybe 6th and 7th string tackles, depending on how you look at it, for the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe it's just that Andy Dalton is not the quarterback that can handle that. Now, Washington, their defensive line can give you some problems. So we're tempering expectations here for Andy Dalton after what we saw last week. None of that momentum that carried over from the end of the win over the Giants. A big divisional game. Again, if you're an NFC East team and you win this week, you're a contender, and you around the locker room should be feeling like, hey, we can host a playoff game this year. There's no reason that we can't do that. So Dalton, tread with caution. And the other thing about Dalton here is, what are we looking at for the Dallas quarterback and passing game? Big come from behind game scripts, big volume. Well, it's not going to happen against Washington. Washington's, unless it's defensive touchdowns, unless Ezekiel Elliott can't hold on to the ball, you're not going to have that game script. So it could be a lot of Elliott and Pollard. Pollard's interesting because now he has a path to value without Elliott getting hurt. 7 fumbles in 13 games for Elliott, and it's definitely something that's going to be on his mind. See, so this is a week where Elliott walks around the facility with the ball and everyone slaps it away and just gets him used to it. But because it's a mental thing at this point, it's not a physical thing. You're still playing Cooper. You're still playing Lamb. Gallup you feeling lucky. You're going to roll the dice here. I don't know if the pass rush is going to give Andy Dalton time to throw accurately downfield to Gallup. And if you think it is an Andy Dalton struggle game, then Dalton to Dalton Schultz gives you some possibilities. Dallas sees all kinds of trade possibilities for Dallas. This is an assessment, and Jerry Jones is impulsive. So I'm thinking trade for some defensive help. Something, anything. Stop the bleeding.
Stop it somehow. And Jeremy's talking in the chat room like Red Rifle slinging empty shells.
Yep. Click, click, click.
When I think of Red Rifle, I think of Christmas Story, right? The Red Ryder BB gun. And we actually have it's a fascinating that it still works. 130 years old, 1890 Winchester Bloom 2520, one with the repeater.
Yeah.
And the repeater you can shoot faster than you can a semi-automatic rifle. Because there's no automatic rifles in public, although people get that mistaken all the time. So those actually don't sling the empty shells, but it will still get jammed.
Yeah.
It's from 1890. It still fires today, 25-20, not 30-30, but it will get jammed. That lever will get jammed. And I think that's what happened to Andy Dalton. The lever got jammed.
Yeah.
Jerry can fix the lever. He can fix the lever. All right. Let's move on and talk about the other side of this. The Washington football team. J.D. McKissick, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. It is 2020. Okay, J.D. McKissick. Here we go with him and Antonio Gibson, more of a what the heck flex type of thing. You got McLovin in, Terry McLaurin, of course. But outside of that, what, Logan Thomas? What the heck tight end? I don't know, Bloom. It could be a little better for Washington than you think, but it's still kind of shaky to trust guys not named Terry McLaurin in this offense.
It is. So that's the test, right, Cease? Is it this offense bringing people down or Dallas's defense lifting people up? And that's how lucky do you feel? How much do you trust that Kyle Allen can get it done? Certainly you do trust Terry McLaurin, and you would expect McLaurin to get done once or twice. Dallas needs that pass rush to get home here to keep that from happening. But yeah, I mean, Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, I think they can both be successful in this game. Dontrell Inman, if you have to dig deep. Logan Thomas, who actually came back to life last week, if you have to dig deep. And Cecil, I think trade. I think this theme here, keeping it up. I think Washington. So let's play a little game. I'm bad. I'm really annoying about this, right? If I say to you that we hear before the trade deadline, Washington has made a trade, who's the one player that pops into your head that would be involved?
Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins. Yep. So that's exciting. That's interesting. Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe. What happens with Dwayne Haskins as we head towards the trade deadline?
Yeah, and just don't everyone cellophane wrap. John Ross, David Njoku, Dwayne Haskins, keep them minty fresh, right?
Yeah, still in the package.
Still in the box. Used to love this. Used to want this.
You don't have to pay retail.
Yeah, Sony guts.
Gently used.
Sony guts.
Gently used.
Nothing like that. Gently used. All right. Our man Shylander sent Haskins to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yes, please, please, for the love of God, because Mason Rudolph can't play, and the clock is ticking on Ben. So, can you squeak in, get another ring? It's a Steelers show, right, Bloom?
Yeah,
can you
always
squeak out another ring before Ben's done? Because he's kind of done. But when he's done, then the Steelers are done. So anyway, that is a wrap for part 1 of the Week 7 preview here on the Audible. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. Apple Music, Spotify, however you listen to the show. Make sure to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, click that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, kind of. And, of course, talking about the rest of the slate for Week 7. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Everyone, thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.